Disclaimer. The content on this YouTube channel includes true stories, some of which are based on real life facts, and some are fiction. We do not claim ownership of any of the stories presented on this channel. We have sourced stories from various online and offline sources, and we have made reasonable efforts to ensure that the stories are accurate and reliable. However, we cannot guarantee the accuracy or completeness of the information presented. The stories presented on this channel are for entertainment purposes only, and any reliance on the stories is strictly at your own risk. We do not accept any responsibility for any loss, injury, or damage that may arise from your use of the stories or any information presented on this channel. Please note that the stories presented on this channel may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to Demonic Diaries, the YouTube channel where we explore the darkest corners of the human mind. Join me, your host, as I delve into the pages of terrifying tales and haunting stories. From the depths of hell to the darkest depths of the human psyche, we'll be your guide through the most bone-chilling and spine-tingling stories that will keep you up at night. So buckle up and prepare to be scared, because on Demonic Diaries, every story has a dark side. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Let's get started. Number 1. I discovered a hidden frequency on my radio. The chilling whispers reveal a sinister truth. My name is Alex, and I'm a late-night radio enthusiast. I've spent countless hours scanning through frequencies, searching for some distant signals, and even occasionally picking up conversations between truckers. But last week, I stumbled upon something I can't explain. I need to share this with you all because I fear for my safety, and I can't bear this burden alone any longer. It began when I was scanning through frequencies, searching for some distant signals. Amidst the white noise, I suddenly found something peculiar, an eerie, low-pitched hum. Intrigued, I adjusted my equipment to focus on the signal. That's when the whispers started. At first, they were barely audible. But as I refined the frequency, I could make out multiple voices. They spoke in disjointed phrases, their words chilling me to the core. They talked of gruesome acts and foreboding events yet to occur. I couldn't shake the feeling that these voices were not human. Curiosity got the better of me, and I began to document their ramblings. I found patterns, codes, and coordinates. What I uncovered was a terrifying network of unspeakable horrors happening right under our noses. The whispers spoke of dark rituals, malevolent entities, and a shadowy organization orchestrating it all. I spent days researching and cross-referencing their words with any known events or locations, trying to make sense of it all. What I found was a series of unsolved disappearances and strange phenomena, all connected to the coordinates the voices mentioned. It was as if they were pointing me toward a hidden truth, one that was far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. As I delved deeper into the mystery, the whispers grew more persistent and ominous. I began to experience strange occurrences. Objects would move on their own, and the voices would sometimes follow me even when I was away from my radio. It seemed as though they were aware that I was listening and wanted to send a message. Then, one night, as I was piecing together the information I had gathered, I received a chilling phone call. The voice on the other end was distorted and inhuman, but I recognized it as one of the whispers from the radio. It said only 2 words before hanging up. Stop listening. My heart raced, and fear gripped me as I realized that they knew who I was and what I was doing. I became paranoid, feeling like I was being watched at every turn. I started to see shadowy figures lurking just out of sight, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were after me. Despite my fear, I was determined to expose the truth behind these whispers. I gathered all of my notes and began posting my findings online, hoping that someone else could help me decipher the remaining codes and unravel the full extent of the organization's sinister activities. But with every new revelation, the threats intensified. My computer was hacked, and my online accounts were compromised. The shadowy figures seemed to be everywhere, stalking me relentlessly. I knew that I was in grave danger, but I couldn't stop now. The truth had to be revealed, no matter the cost. I continued my investigation, and it led me to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, one of the coordinates mentioned by the whispers. I hesitated at the entrance, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew that whatever awaited me inside could change everything, but I also knew that I couldn't turn back. With a deep breath, I pushed open the door and stepped into the darkness. The warehouse was cold and damp, filled with the echoes of distant dripping water. As I ventured further inside, the whispers from the radio returned, growing louder and more menacing with each step. And that's when I saw it, a dimly lit room filled with strange symbols and a circle drawn on the floor. In the center of the circle, there was a small black box emitting the same low-pitched hum I had first encountered on the radio. The whispers grew louder, urging me to open the box, but I resisted. I knew that doing so would unleash a darkness that I couldn't control. I quickly took photos of the room and the box before fleeing the warehouse. I had to share my discovery with the world, even though it put me in mortal danger. I hope that by sharing my story here, someone else will be able to continue my work and bring the sinister truth behind the whispers to light. Please, heed my warning. The whispers are real, and they are watching us. If you come across them, do not listen. And if you choose to pursue the truth, know that you do so at your own peril. Stay vigilant and trust no one. Update. I've started to receive encrypted messages, and I need your help to decipher them. I will post my findings and further updates on this thread. Stay tuned and be prepared for the truth to unravel before your eyes. Number 2. Attention shoppers. Please hide at the back of the store immediately. Attention shoppers, came a male voice over the intercom. Please move to the back of the store immediately. The back of the store. I whispered to Daniel. Don't they mean the front of the store? To pay for our stuff. It was 8:50 p.m. 10 minutes till closing time. We brought our 2 kids out on this late-night Walmart excursion in the hopes of burning off some energy. Instead, they just thrown tantrums for new Legos and Hot Wheels. It was a disaster. But apparently, the disaster was just beginning. Please move to the back of the store immediately, the voice repeated overhead. This is not a drill. I glanced around, but the other shoppers were just as confused as I was. An old lady looked up at the ceiling, scrunching her face. What the hell? A dark-haired woman asked her boyfriend, pushing a cart full of garden supplies. Didn't you hear? An older man said, leaning over his cart of bottled water and canned food. We're in a tornado watch. 1 touchdown in Sorville. A tornado? It was definitely storming outside. I'd seen the black clouds roll in from the east earlier. But it didn't look that bad. Do not stay out in the open. I repeat, do not stay out in the open. There was a pause. Then, an explosion of sound as everyone began to mobilize. Carts rolling, panicked voices, feet slapping on the floor. No. No, no, no. This can't be happening. I hurried down the toy aisle, Tucker in my arms, Daniel and Jackson following me. 3 zigzaggy turns, and then we were in the electronics area. I glanced at the TVs on the wall, and pictured the 4 of us, crushed underneath them. Stay away from windows and doors, the voice continued on the loudspeaker. And do not attempt to exit the store. Is it safe here? Daniel shook his head. Big open areas aren't good. I'm going to check in back, see if there's a break room or something. You stay here, okay? I nodded. Arms shaking, I sat down on the ground between 2 shelves of video games. Tucker sucked on a bottle in my arms while Jackson began to giggle. Is the tornado going to hit the store? And everything will fly around, real fast? He asked with a big stupid grin on his face. I don't know. A tornado. A real-life tornado, like you see in the movies, plowing through our town. It was so unfathomable. We were New York natives, transplanted here to Indiana only 6 months ago. I'd never been in a tornado watch my entire life. Daniel jogged back into view. Everything's locked up, he said, as he joined me on the floor. But listen. Fairview's a big town. The chances that it'll hit this Walmart I think will be okay. I never should have brought us here. You didn't know. None of us did. He wrapped his arm around me. They should have warned us. Like an emergency alert on our phones. Or a tornado siren, or something. The voice overhead rang out again through the store. Do not stay out in the open. Do not make yourself visible. That includes security cameras. Please move to a spot that is not visible to any cameras. I frowned. What does that have to do with tornadoes? A feeling of unease in the pit of my stomach. I glanced up and saw several black globes descending from the ceiling, hiding the cameras within. I guess we should listen to them and get out of sight, I whispered. I grabbed Jackson's hand, Daniel picked up Tucker, and we jogged out into the center aisle. The store was an eerie sight, abandoned shopping carts, askew in the aisle, full of everything from pies to batteries to plants. Footsteps echoed around the store from people unseen, as they found their new hiding places. We dodged a shopping cart full of soda, ran through kitchenwares, and then stopped in the Easter decoration aisle. There was a camera in the central corridor, but as long as we stayed in the middle of Easter aisle, we'd be invisible. The 4 of us crouched on the floor, next to some demented-looking Easter bunnies. I'm hungry, Jackson whined. SSSSHHH. Mommy. I grabbed a bag of colorful chocolate eggs and ripped it open. Here. Candy. Happy. I whispered, thrusting them into his hands. Then I leaned back against the metal shelves, panting. But I didn't have long to rest. A mechanical whine overhead, and then the voice came through the speakers again. Keep away from aisles with food. If you have food with you, leave it and move to a new hiding place. If you have any open wounds, cover them with clothing. What the fuck? That had nothing to do with keeping safe in a tornado. We should make a run for it, Daniel whispered to me, starting to stand. But the tornado? I don't think there is a tornado. Listen. Do you hear any wind? I listened. But all I heard was silence. No howling wind, no shaking ground, no projectiles clanging against the metal roof. Maybe it's still coming. I know what they're saying doesn't make sense, but to go outside. We need to get out of here. Now. He grabbed Jackson's hand as he held Tucker in his arms. Come on. Daniel, I don't think that's a good idea, I whispered. But the next words from the intercom changed my mind. Assume a fetal position and place your hands on your head. Close your eyes and do not open them for any reason. Let's go. We broke into a sprint and ran down the central aisle, cameras be damned. The front door appeared in front of us, a little black rectangle looming in the distance. And as we got closer, I saw Daniel was right. There was a tree at the border of the parking lot, under a street lamp. It was perfectly still. We continued running, past the clothing area, past the snacks lined up at the checkout lines. I ran towards the sliding glass doors as fast as my legs would carry me. Almost there. Almost there. Almost. The doors didn't open. No. No, no, no. Daniel slammed his body against the door. It rattled underneath him. I tried to squeeze my fingers into the gap between them, to try and pull them apart. They didn't budge. They locked us in, I whispered. I want to go home, Jackson said. Tucker was beginning to fuss too, making little noises like he was about to start full-on wailing. I turned around, and that's when I saw him. A Walmart employee. He was sitting on the ground at the end of one of the checkout aisles, facing away from us, wearing the familiar blue vest with a golden starburst. Hey, let us out. He didn't reply. Did you hear me? I don't care if there's a fucking tornado. Unlock the door and let us out. Again, he said nothing. But in the silence, I could hear something. A wet smacking sound. I stared at the man, slightly hunched over, still facing away from me. Was he eating something? The speaker overhead crackled to life. Attention. Please do not talk to any Walmart employees. My blood ran cold. The smacking sound stopped. And then, slowly, the man began to stand. He placed his palms on the conveyor belt and pushed up, and I could see that they were stained with blood. I backed away, but my legs felt like they were moving through a vat of honey. No, no, no. Fingers locked around my arm and yanked. Come on, Daniel shouted. I sprinted after him, deeper into the store. Tucker stared at me over his shoulder, and Jackson ran as fast as his little feet would take him. I was vaguely aware of the slap 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 sound behind me, but I didn't dare look back. Daniel ran into the clothing area and I swayed, dodging circular racks of t-shirts and wooden displays of baby clothes. He skidded to a stop and ducked into the dressing room area. In here, he whispered, motioning at one of the rooms. We piled inside and locked the door. Daddy, Jackson started. You listen to me very carefully, I said, crouching to his level. You have to be absolutely silent. Do not say a word, okay? Jackson looked at me, then Daniel, then he nodded and sat down on the floor. I'm going to try to call 911, Daniel whispered, transferring Tucker to me and pulling out his phone. He tapped at the screen then frowned. What? We don't seem to have any service. I don't. Thump. I grabbed Jackson and pulled him away from the door. The four of us huddled in the corner. I held my breath. Thump. Under the gap of the dressing room door, men's feet in black shoes. They slowly took a step forward, deeper into the dressing room. Don't move, I whispered, holding Jackson. The man took another step. Don't make a sound. Don't move. Don't. Tucker let out a soft cry. The man stopped. His feet turned, pointing at us. No. No, no, no. Tucker let out another cry, louder this time. My nails dug into Daniel's hand. No. A hand appeared. It slowly pressed against the floor, stained with blood. And then his knees appeared, as he lowered himself down to the gap. No. Could he fit under? The gap wasn't small, it was like the stall door to a bathroom. If he flattened himself against the floor, there's a chance he could fit under. I watched in horror as his stomach came into view. His blue Walmart vest, as he lowered his body to the floor. Then he pushed his arm under the gap and blindly swept it across the floor. As if feeling for us. This is it. We're going to die. And then he lowered his head. His face. Oh God, there was something horribly wrong with his face. He smiled up at us with a smile that was impossibly wide, showing off blood-stained teeth. His skin was so pale it was nearly blue. And his eyes, they were milky white, without pupils or irises. I opened my mouth to scream. Attention shoppers, the voice began overhead. No, no, no. Please make your way to the front of the store and make your final purchases. We will be closing in 10 minutes. What? And then before I could react, something unseen jerked the man out of view. A strange dragging sound followed, as if someone was dragging his body out of the dressing room area. I stared at the door, shaking, as Tucker's cries rang in my ears. But he didn't come back. And within 10 minutes, the usual hubbub of Walmart returned. Voices, footsteps, shopping cart wheels rolling along the floor. Shaking, I finally got up and unlocked the door. The store looked completely normal. People were lined up at the cash registers, placing their goods on the conveyor belts. Employees were scanning tags, printing receipts. People walked towards the glass doors, and when they did, they slid open. As we slowly walked towards the exit, I spotted the older man who'd warned us about the tornado earlier. What was that? I asked, unable to keep my voice from shaking. He shrugged. I guess the tornado missed us. What a miracle, huh? Giving us a smile, he disappeared out the glass doors and into the night. Number 3. Back in 2013 I had just started on an education, and after the first school period I had to out and find an internship to be able to progress, but at the time it proved to be almost impossible to get one, so while I was looking I decided to take another job, just to make sure we had food on the table. After searching for a while I found out a friend of my fiance's family had his own handicap bus company, a kind of taxi service for wheelchair users or otherwise disabled people, and he needed someone to cover the night shift, since it was a bus that had to be on call at least 22 hours a day. Seeing that I'm quite the night owl, I immediately told him that I'd be happy to take the job, and after I got the needed license I was hired. The job was pretty basic: pick up people and drop them off where they needed to go, and sometimes use a machine to get wheelchairs up or down some stairs, and when there was no trips, I drove to a designated area and did whatever while waiting. I quickly found a truck stop in the area where I could park and catch some Z's while waiting. There was a gas station where I could buy coffee in the early hours of the shift, and on the other side of the gas station's parking lot on the opposite side of the truck stop, there was a rundown restaurant with a motel connected to it. To not disturb the sleeping truckers if I got a trip in the middle of the night, I usually parked on the restaurant side. After parking there every night for a while, I noticed one particular room had a lot of people come and go. In the beginning I thought nothing of it, but then one night in the end of the summer, while I was half asleep with the windows slightly open, I suddenly heard yelling coming from the motel, and a dude came tumbling out of the room and started running, and a few seconds later a big dude came running after him with something in his hand. I could not make out what it was. I thought that it was none of my business, and went back to my half-sleeping waiting stage. Not much time passed, and my phone went off. I had trip an hour's drive away, so I turned on the bus, and was leaving the parking lot, when I saw the big guy coming round the corner. The rest of the night, I had back-to-back trips, so I didn't park until I got home. The day after I didn't get a return to home zone until 2 or 3 a.m. When I arrived at the parking lot, the area where I used to park had fist-sized rocks strewn all over the place. Not connecting the dots at the time, I just parked a few spots over and started waiting. I fell asleep pretty fast, but was jerked back into reality when a car right in front of my bus honked its horn, flashed the high beams and revved its engine. I thought it was just some idiot who noticed me sleeping, and found it funny, trying to make me shit myself. So I jumped out of the bus, about to tell him to fuck off, but instead of driving off or stopping, the driver made the start brake thing with the car, indicating that I was the one who should fuck off, and then I connected the dots. Not wanting to seem like a pushover, I stood still and stared at the car. Not that I could actually see anything with the high beams almost blinding me, and after what seemed like a really long time, but must not have been more than 30 seconds, the car drove off. After that I decided to park near the trucks from then on. A month or so passed and nothing had happened since the car episode, and I figured that nothing more would if I just kept parking by the trucks. Then one night I had a long 12-hour shift on SUNDAY 6 p.m. 6 a.m., and I didn't have time to eat dinner before work that day, and during the first half of my shift I had back-to-back trips with no time to eat, so when I got a return to home zone I quickly parked at the far end of the almost empty truck stop, and got ready to eat my now very late dinner that my fiancée packed for me. I wanted to watch some TV on my phone while eating, so I sat with my back against the driver's side door, and got comfy. While turning my back to the door, I had accidentally hit the door lock with my elbow, but that was my luck. As I was sitting there scrolling Netflix on my phone, I suddenly felt the bus rock, and heard the clack of the door handle behind me smack back in position. I quickly turned and saw a dude with a hood over his head, quickly crouching and proceeding to lay down on the ground and crawling under the bus, with the biggest kitchen knife in his right hand. I quickly got up, and made sure the other two doors were locked, and then I looked in all directions to see if I could spot him. He was still under the bus, and I was sure as hell not jumping out this time, since the knife made his intentions pretty clear. I turned on the engine, turned on the spots on the back of the bus, and looked around to see if it had scared him off, and lucky for me it did. I saw him run off and into a bushy woody area at the end of the truck stop. I never parked at that truck stop again after that night, and I made sure all doors were locked every time I was parked. As we come to the end of this episode, we invite you to reflect on the stories we shared. What do they say about our deepest fears, desires, and motivations? What can we learn from these tales of horror and the supernatural? We hope you'll continue to explore these questions with us in future episodes of our channel. If you want to stay up to date on our latest videos, please like and subscribe. And until next time, remember to stay curious and embrace the darkness.